Hi, Lauren. I wanted to leave you some feedback on your week two writing assignment, your rough draft. So, first off, I think that you have a lot of content here to work with. I think I'm getting a good sense of your perspective and what has helped shape that. Um, so, one thing that I want to talk to you about is you really don't mention place until the end of your second page, right? Which is Joplin slash Carl Junction. Um, I almost said junior for some reason. I don't know why. I'm not hungry. Um, so up until that point, you're talking a lot about your home life and how on the one hand, you feel like you are sheltered, but you also feel very safe and secure. But you're also kind of yeah. And then the other thing is you're kind of balancing that with like you recognize that even though you have that safety and security, which is great, you feel like you'd like to broaden your perspective. So I think that theme right there is enough to work with for a narrative. But remember, one of the things that I've asked you to do for the final draft, it's okay for this one, but for your final draft, you need to describe a place in rich detail, right? So if Joplin and the Carl Junction area is the place that you want to describe in rich detail, along with the home, I think that that's the one thing that's missing, right? So the positive thing is that's one of the things that can help you reach that page count, and maybe it's like a blend of the Joplin area and this trip to DC, which seems to be a pivotal moment for you in your development, right? That you recognize that there's this whole other world out there, and you were able to meet all these different interesting people that you saw all this potential in. I love the little details of the people that you met in DC and how they had such a strong impact on you. Those could all be their own narratives, right? If you truly wanted to them. And I love this detail of the man that you met on the bus that's bringing his old woman, or his old woman, I'm sorry, his elderly mother sweet potatoes. It's just a beautiful, just like kind of snapshot. So here's what I'm thinking. I really kind of like how this is like in some ways kind of a coming of age story, that like here is the environment that I grew up in. Here is the foundation that's been established. Now it's like I'm kind of ready to take on the world, right? And that's like really the sense that I get from you in this essay, which is so amazing and great to hear. In terms of place, I'm thinking one of two things. I would either write about your hometown and your home in more depth and descriptive detail to bring this out, um, or start with that, but uh, talk about DC and this trip in descriptive detail if you feel like this is going to really help you talk about, I don't know, a moment of change for you. Or you could try to balance both of these places. The latter might be the more difficult to do, um, but part of me feels like you can't really talk about DC without talking about Joplin, right? So the reason why DC is such a formidable moment for you is because of your experiences as a homeschooled student, growing up in Southwest Missouri. Um, and that I think could be the place the entire essay as well. It's kind of up to you, because of course it is your essay. One thing you want to think about is all stories have arcs, and what I mean by that is all stories have clear beginnings, middles, and ends. So really the kind of decisions that you want to start making this week and into next week is what kind of arc is your story going to have, right? So one of the things that determines the beginning from the end. So, one of the things that helps us identify the middle is a moment of change, meaning something has to happen to the principal character. And in a personal narrative, you are the principal character. So, you might think about this: what is the moment of change? So, that's why for me, why I kind of keep leaning on DC as your moment of change, right? Because this is, I kind of feel, one of the things that gave you the confidence to get out there and see the world. Um, so I don't know. Like I said, it could be you writing about Joplin in a lot of depth. It could be you writing about DC in a lot of depth, or it could be a little bit of both, right? Because as I said before, I don't think that you can write about DC without fully writing about Joplin. Um, but just some things to think about there. Um, Another thing, now that I'm looking at this paragraph, it reminded me of something else I wanted to talk about. These lessons that you learned, those also could end up being fully realized narratives, right? So you kind of present the ideas. Where did they go? Yeah, here they are. Here are the lessons that I learned, but we don't really know how you learned them. I mean, you tell us, but in narrative writing, we always do showing. So, if you don't want to write about DC in depth, think about how you could take one or two of these lessons and tell a story of how you learned that lesson, right? Because that would give us a clear beginning, middle, and end. And that would allow you the opportunity to talk about Joplin and Carthage and your home life in a lot of depth, which is one of the things, right, that I want you to do. Write about this place in rich, concrete detail. So as I said, you got a lot of options here, which is great. It's kind of figuring out where you want to take it, okay? And we'll talk about that this week. All right? And I'm looking forward to seeing where it ends up.